Hello everyone, what's going on? It's Voodoo 51292 here, and I am making another game review today. So it's another entry into the Voodoo's Verdict series, and today we're going to be talking about a game that has been highly touted on the PlayStation 4. It's a PlayStation 4 exclusive game, a game that I think a lot of people have been waiting for to see what the PS4 can do. It's been a while since we've had a really good PS4, kind of launch come out from a AAA title. And this one is dedicated to Sony. So we're talking about inFAMOUS Second Son today, a game by Sucker Punch. And let's just get right into inFAMOUS Second Son. What's it all about? So just kind of a summary, a setup of what the game's all about. You play a new character into the inFAMOUS series named Delson Rowe. And he lives on an Indian reservation with his brother. It's really unclear where his parents are or anything like that. But you kind of live with this tribe, and there's this woman Betty who is kind of like a foster mother to you. She looks after you and cares for you. And then one day, well, I guess we should set it up to where, so I can explain that. The world that inFAMOUS Second Son takes place in is a world where conduits are seen basically as outlaws. And there's an organization called the DUP, what's it called? The Division of Unified Protection or something like that. Or the Department of Unified Protection, which is actually run by a conduit. And she has a bunch of conduit soldiers under her control. But they basically work for the government to catch conduits and lock them away, kind of in this prison away from society. So to set it up, you are in the reservation, and all of a sudden a DUP armored truck comes through and crashes, and conduits escape out of this transport. They were transporting conduits. They escape. Basically, what happens is Delson learns through this that he is a conduit when he accidentally absorbs the power of one of the conduits. And once that happens, when he's discovered to be a conduit, then the leader of the DUP, the lady who I forgot her name. She's the leader of the stuff, and I just forgot her name. She's obviously a big character. But, her name's Augustine, that's right, Augustine, is there. She shows up to the scene of the crash, and she doesn't figure out that you're a DUP, or that you're a conduit, sorry, because basically your family, or your tribe won't rat you out. So she kind of does bad things to them with her powers, and leaves. And it's your job now to go chase her down, and the only way that Delson's ability is he can absorb other conduits' powers. And the only way that you can undo the things that she did to the tribe is to absorb her power to basically take back the bad stuff that she did. And so the whole point is you have to track her down in Seattle, Washington, and take her power so that you can go and save your tribe who are dying because of what she did to them. And that's kind of the setup of the whole game. So once you're in Seattle, that's when really the game proper takes place. And what you're going to notice when you play this game is that it is set up extremely similar to previous inFAMOUS games. You're going to have sections of the city that are controlled by the DUP, and you have to go liberate the city from the DUP. Well, you don't have to, but you can liberate the different districts from the DUP, which unlock side quests and all that other kind of stuff. So how does that all work? Well, in each district, the DUP will have one, maybe even two in big districts, what they call mobile command centers, which are these trucks. And to unlock the area, to open up side missions and all that, what you have to do is you have to go in and you have to destroy these trucks. But these trucks are always surrounded by a ton of DUP soldiers and turrets and that kind of thing. So in each district, you go in, you wipe out all the soldiers around wow, I just started stuttering all over. You wipe out the soldiers around the command center. You destroy the command center, and it opens up the map, and it shows a bunch of side quests. Now once you start doing the side quests, and they're all basically the same side quests across the district, you'll have stuff like spray paint missions, where you'll go and you'll hold your controller sideways. Let's see if I can grab my controller here. Over here where I put it, you take your controller, your PS4 controller, and you hold it sideways like this, and you spray in this stencil, and you spray paint art on the walls. So do that. There's also audio log side missions where there's this guy who's in contact with you. He's an informant for the DUP, but he's helping you out. He drops audio logs, so you go activate the mission. You use the GPS on your phone to track down the audio log and listen. There's missions where you'll get a picture of a DUP secret agent. You have to identify him and knock him out. There's missions where you will go and use your cell phone to hack into a hidden camera feed. And based on the feed that you see, you have to find the hidden camera and destroy it. So once you do these side missions, they start reducing the percentage of DUP control in the district. And when you get below a certain percentage of control, it unlocks something called a what's it called? The District Showdown. And that's basically where you go to this billboard in the middle of the district, you spray paint it, and it sets up this big fight where they send a bunch of DUP soldiers at you. Sometimes it's helicopters or just a bunch of soldiers. And you wipe all those guys out during the showdown, and when you do that, then you completely open up the district. You open it up to be a fast travel location, and you unlock different vests for Delsin to wear when you do this. And this is how you basically unlock all the districts. There's two halves of the city. You start off in the top half, and as you advance the main story, you unlock the bottom half of the city. But that's how it works for all the districts. Now, in this game, which is different from other Infamous games, you have multiple powers you can use. Remember, Cole could only have electricity. Delsin has, over the course of the game, during the main story of the game, you get three main powers to use, which I won't spoil. And during the very end of the game, the final level of the game, you get a fourth power that you can use to continue the game and do any side stuff you want to do after you've beaten the main story. The powers, they all basically have the same, basics. There's a hover ability. There is, your regular attack, your medium attack. You have a heavy version of the attack, and then you have like this basically super move that you can do whenever you've built up a karmic streak of a certain amount. Now, just like previous Infamous games, karma is a big factor in this game. You can have good karma or evil karma, and it works the same way. You'll have random encounters in the city where you can do stuff for good karma, like you can help an injured person, or you can do a drug bust, or there's evil karma. You can go beat up protesters or go slap different people in the world and get evil karma. Well, when you do a certain amount of karmic actions in a row, whatever karma you are, it unlocks this super move that you can bust out during combat, and it's insanely powerful and wipes out everything. What I used to do is for the district showdowns, I would unlock the super move, and then I would unlock the what's it called? I would unlock the showdown, then I would go down to the enemies, use the super move, and I'd kill everyone instantly and win automatically. But all the superpowers are not exactly the same, and I've heard this as a criticism of the game, but I have to come to the game's defense and say, while there's the same basics for the superpowers, there's different things about them that make them very unique. Some of the abilities let you scale buildings and walls very, very quickly. Some are really better at melee. Like some do more melee damage. Some, when they do the heavy attack, they actually do more damage during the heavy attack. Some are a couple of them are just like a normal kind of a pistol style of shooting the medium attack. One of them's like a machine gun. So you just hold it down and it just destroys who's ever there. So depending on how you want to play and the style you want to play, you can change your ability. And the only way you change it is just absorbing, the power from whatever ability you want to use. Just like the other Infamous games, you have a certain amount of, power, and when it runs out, you have to go into the world and absorb it from something in the surrounding area. And you just absorb whatever power you want to use. So that's kind of the way it works. There's a an upgrading system, like an upgrade tree, that you upgrade your character with the blast shards, much like you did in previous Infamous games. There's blast shards hidden around the city. You can collect them, and then you can level your character that way, and different tiers of levels become unlocked as you gain karma levels, either good or bad. It unlocks different things, and some skills are karma specific, so you can only unlock certain skills if you have good karma or bad karma. And that's kind of the gameplay. So what did I like about Infamous Second Son? What did I not like about Infamous Second Son? What I liked about Infamous Second Son was the fact that it was a new character, and it was a different sort of time in the universe. I thought that Infamous really could use a new character. It's the third game, so that's when you want to try to spice things up, and I think they made a good attempt. Obviously, the visuals in the game are stunning. It's on PS4, and so the visuals right now don't get any better, except maybe on PC. But they don't get any better on console than Infamous Second Son. It's absolutely amazing. Everything, the lighting, the faces, the facial movements, the emotions are like as realistic as I've ever seen. The frame rates never chugged, despite how much shit was going on the screen. It was always at least 30, sometimes even up to 60 frames a second, which is excellent. So graphically, the game is amazing looking. So I definitely like that. I like the fact that you could have multiple powers, and that the powers, although they had the same basic ideas behind them, each had their own unique feel, and each power was different in that it was really good at a different area of combat, and you could kind of play it the way you wanted to play it, which was cool. So what are some things I didn't like about Infamous Second Son? I did not like the fact that, despite the new character, and despite the new fancy abilities and everything, it still boiled down to the exact same gameplay that we've always had from Infamous. Extremely repetitive, do the same thing to clear every district, repetitive, there's only like 4 or 5 different kinds of side missions, and it's the only thing you're going to be doing for side missions the entire game. There's no kinds of story-based side missions, nothing like that, like in other open world games where you can walk around and find NPCs, and they have story, different story arcing side missions and stuff like that you can do for them. And maybe you get special items in those games that you wouldn't get unless you did the optional missions. In this one, it's like, you don't get any special abilities. You don't have to unlock any of the districts if you don't want. You can just flat play through the story and never worry about unlocking a district, because really, it doesn't do all that much for you, except helps with, gain karma level and find some blast shards. But other than that, it's really not that rewarding to do the repetitive side missions. So I didn't like that. I didn't like the fact that it was extremely repetitive. Within its own game, it was repetitive, and then it was repetitive in the entire Infamous series, because it's just like all the other Infamous games. It works the same exact way, and there's really no difference. And so I didn't like that fact. I didn't think that they did enough to innovate with this game. The writing, the story was okay. It wasn't anything great. It wasn't that deep of a story. The characters, I felt like I wasn't that drawn to the character of Delsin, to be quite honest with you. He wasn't a very deep character to me. And we never really learned that much about Delsin. They never explained to you where his parents are, why he's on this reservation, anything like that. There's no kind of in-depth look into Delsin as a character. It's just very face value. He just acts like, this rogue kind of punk kid the entire the entire game, and you don't really get many deep levels of Delsin. And so I felt that the story writing fell short on that. I liked Cole as a character a lot better than I liked Delsin. Really, the best interactions and story writings between him and his brother Reggie, his older brother Reggie, who's not a conduit, but Reggie's a police officer, and so he's sworn obviously to protect people, and so he has this internal conflict all the time about his brother as a conduit, going out doing dangerous stuff, possibly endangering people. He's a cop, he's supposed to stop him, but he wants to help his brother, obviously, and so their interaction and their relationship through the game was probably the best thing that was written. But the dialogue wasn't very good. There was a lot of really cheesy dialogue written that wasn't well thought out. So the story writing, I felt, lacked something in this game. I didn't think that the writing was that great. Not a lot of character development, not a lot of in-depth look at any characters, and the dialogue wasn't too great, and the story was meh. It was okay. Huge complaint I have about the game. Infamous at this point needs a cover system in the worst way. It's the third game, it doesn't have a cover system. I remember in other Infamous games, at least you could crouch, and that would help you somewhat. I don't know if you can crouch in this game. I never did it. I tried all the buttons, and I couldn't figure out how to crouch. So I don't know if you can even crouch in this game, but you certainly can't take cover. And it's just ridiculous, because sometimes you will just be surrounded by 1,000 different enemies, and there's literally nothing you can do. It's a regenerating health system. So you have to, if you're about to die, you have to go somewhere where you're not going to get hit for a few seconds so you can regenerate your health. Well, sometimes you're just so surrounded by enemies and you can't take cover because there's no cover system. And you're like, well, there's no way for me to regain my health, and you just die. I think that this game would actually be better if there was not going to be a cover system, if you had health kits that you could use on demand when you wanted to, instead of having a regenerating health meter. Oh, you can't get hit, but we're not going to give you any cover so that you can regenerate your health. I think it's a conflict of styles to have regenerating health but no cover. So they need to pick one or the other. If they're going to do regenerating health, they need a cover system. Because just third-person shooter type games, which is what this is, it's a shooter even though it's, you know, superpowers, most of them nowadays have a cover system because they realize that it makes the combat more fun, and it's just, you know, especially if you have regenerating health, a cover system is a must. They don't have it in this game. They have no semblance of a cover system, and it leads to a lot of deaths, and sometimes the checkpoints in this game aren't the best either. So sometimes you can get really pissed off because you'll be a good ways into a mission. All of a sudden you'll get this random cheap death because like the enemies, you know, the DUP enemies have concrete abilities, and they can freaking fly and like get behind you and shit. And so sometimes enemies will come up and fly behind you, and yes, they're concrete conduits, by the way, so they can fly, they can get behind you, and sometimes they do that, and then you'll be getting hit from two sides, nowhere to take cover, you die in 2 seconds, and you have to restart the whole damn mission over, and it's really annoying. So it needs a cover system, doesn't have it, and other than that, yeah, just repetition. There's not a real variety in enemies. There's only a few different enemy types, your normal grunts, and then like a couple of medium enemies, and then your heavy enemies. And it's basically the same enemies the entire game. I remember in Infamous 2, there was a large chunk of different enemies. You had grunts who didn't have conduit powers, but then you had the conduits who had the ice abilities that they could use, and there was a big variety of those enemies. There's like no variety in enemies in this game. It's the same generic dudes dressed exactly the same. They're cookie cutter images of everybody the whole fucking game. And it's really annoying and repetitive, and I didn't like that. So, and a lot of times in this game, it's just aggravating. The combat is aggravating. The final boss, I raged during the entire final boss fight because it consists of the final boss just spamming the same 2 attacks basically the entire round, you trying to dodge the attacks, and then using one attack that you have, spamming back at the final boss. And that's how it goes. And it's just, it's not inventive. It's this rectangle room. You have to avoid their spamming attacks, and then you spam one attack the entire time to beat the boss. And there's bad checkpoints. So, yeah, I mean, there's good things about this game. Again, good thing, replayability here. There's 2 karma choices. So you can do one playthrough with 1 karma, go back and replay the game with the other karma. There's the collectibles, obviously, the blast shards. And you do get trophies for doing like all the spray painting side missions, all the audio collection missions. When you do all those, I think you get a silver trophy for each. So if you're a completionist, it's cool in that aspect. You can get all the blast shards. You can fully upgrade your character. You can do all those side missions, even though they're extremely repetitive and they're all the same basic thing. You know, there's a good amount of content here. I say I did the main story, obviously, and then what I did was I unlocked all of the districts. I think there's like 11 or 12 districts. I unlocked them all. I disabled the command centers and did the showdowns for every single district, and I did most of the side missions. I think I did every side mission for every type of side mission except for like the hidden detective ones or whatever, because those were annoying and pissed me off. But for all the other ones, I did all of that, and I think in total it took me about 11 hours. So it's a decent amount of content. It's not a great amount of content. I think I played Infamous 2 for a longer amount of time, but there is a decent amount of content, and then like I said, there's replayability with the other Karma side. But in the end, I thought Infamous Second Son was a good game. I did not think it was a great game, by any means. I think it could have been a great game had they made it less repetitive, had they had things like a cover system, had they, I don't know, just done something different with the game. It just turns, once you really get into the game and you get past the whole, oh, look how good Seattle looks and cool, I have these different powers. Once you get past that, you're like, I'm just playing another Infamous game with the same repetitive stuff. Nothing really new to see here. Writing that's, in my opinion, average or subpar, with cheesy dialogue, not a really good character development, and the same annoying mechanics in other Infamous games that you've always wished they fixed, like giving you a cover system or doing something with the health or how it works. It's just the same in this game and just as annoying, and you're like, man, the game leaves you wanting more. It leaves you like, this is really cool, it's a cool idea, I see what they were going for here, but I just wish that there was more. Like there's a couple, like I said, there's a couple of really big boss fights in the game, and they're the most repetitive boss fights you'll ever do. Same exact pattern, 1 or 2 attacks. You just repeat, wash, rinse, and repeat the same pattern with the bosses until you beat them. It's really not exciting. You don't have to use your brain too much to beat the bosses. It's just repetitive mashing, pretty much. So, ultimately, like I said, I think Infamous Second Son's a good game. It's certainly not by any means a system seller. There's no reason to run out and buy a PlayStation 4 just to play this game. There's no reason to rush out and buy this game new for $60. It's worth a playthrough. If you have a PS4, it's worth a rent, or you can wait a few months and buy it cheaper later this year. It's not something you need to run out and play. But it is good, and fans of Infamous will enjoy the game. And it is what it is. If you are new to Infamous, this might be a good game to jump in because it is a new character. It really doesn't tie into the stories of the first 2 Infamous games. They really don't. It's kind of its own deal. So this might be a good time for you to jump into the Infamous series if you want to check it out. But it's not anything that is mind-bending or fantastic, and there's a lot of things that still need to be fixed about the games, and the fact that it's the 3rd one and they still haven't fixed a lot of the stuff is bothersome. And like I said, the writing needs to be improved. Sucker Punch needs to hire some better writers because it really wasn't that great, and it was almost kind of laughable, some of the dialogue and stuff in the game. So, all that being said, what's my final score for Infamous Second Son? Taking everything into account, I'm going to give Infamous Second Son a 7.5 out of 10. I thought it was good. It wasn't great. It's definitely an above average game, there's no question about that. It's certainly not shit or average or anything like that. It's a pretty good game. And it is fun. I did have fun while playing it, but I also had a lot of aggravation and frustration at the same time. But, I basically said everything I needed to say about the game. I give it a 7.5 out of 10, and you can take that as you will, and those are my feelings on it. So, thanks for watching. I'm Voodoo. This has been Voodoo's Verdict of Infamous Second Son. If you want, you can go check out my full playthrough that's up on YouTube. I did the Good Karma playthrough. It's all up on YouTube. Like I said, I did almost all of the side content. I really did. I didn't collect every blast shard or anything like that, but I did pretty much all the side content except for doing the collecting and the spy missions. But everything else I pretty much covered and did and beat the game. So you can go check that out if you want. Other than that, thanks for watching. I'm Voodoo, and I'll be back real soon with more gameplay and more reviews. So thanks a lot. Peace out, and have a good one.